أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, we'll continue with the 15th talk of the Ramadan reminders, inshallah. And we are studying the etiquettes of recitation of the Quran. So we discuss some of the prophetic ways, and we'll continue with that. That when the Prophet ﷺ finished the recitation of the Quran, he would make this dua. And this is dua that we should either memorize or we should at least have it in front of us, so that when we finish the recitation of the Quran, we follow in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ by reciting it. Allahumma arhamni bil Quran waj'alhu li imama wa nura wa huda wa hudan wa rahma. Allahumma dhakkirni minhu ma nasitu wa allimni minhu ma jahiltu warzuqni tilawatahu ana al-layli wa atraf an-nahar waj'alhu li hujjatan ya rabbal alamin. So the meaning of the dua is that, O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, show your mercy to me through the Quran and make it my guide and light and guidance and a source of mercy. O Allah, remind me from it what I have forgotten and teach me what I have not learned or understood, and give me the ability to recite the Quran day and night and make it a hujjah for me, a dalil for me, a source of shafaat for me in a way, or it should be my proof, or Rabb of the Alameen. The hujjah is the proof, the testimony that the Quran will testify that this person used to recite words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, kalamullah, night and day. And as we've mentioned, based upon one of the hadiths, that Quran will be an intercessor for its reciter on the day of judgment, and its intercession will be accepted. Fasting will be a source of intercession, and obviously the Prophet ﷺ will also be the intercessor. Bismillah ta'ala. Now, listening to the Quran has its own reward, but it also has a condition. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَإِذَا قُرِيَ الْقُرْآنُ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَنصِتُوا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, وَأَنَا اخْتَرْتُكَ فَاسْتَمِعْ لِمَا يُوحَى. So the first verse is that whenever the Quran is recited, then listen to it with attention and remain quiet, so that you deserve or you get mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, I have chosen you. So listen attentively to what is being revealed to you. So this implies listening attentively to the Quran, listening quietly, listening with respect, and trying to understand it as well at the same time. Now, it is mentioned that whenever Quran is being recited, everyone who happens to listen to it should remain quiet and pay attention to it. Even people who are walking through, for example, we don't see it over here, but in different other parts of the world, there are walkways through the masjid as well. And the Quran is being recited in the masjid. If it's being recited loudly, then people who are passersby they should also pay attention to it. They should remain quiet and not engage in any discussion at that time. Similarly, teachers, children, they should also, when the Quran is being recited, they should listen to it attentively. According to Qatada, this verse relates to people initially at the beginning of the Islam, that if they are standing up for prayer, somebody else enters the prayer area and he asks how many rakat have been completed so far, and the person who is already in salah will respond to him. And if somebody said assalamu alaikum, they will respond while they were actually in prayer. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayah that it basically pertains to prayer, that when a person is in prayer and the Quran is being recited, the followers, the muqtadi, should remain quiet and they should listen attentively to it, and they should not answer anybody, even if they are addressed. It is also mentioned, and this is the Hanafi opinion, that this ayah implies that if the Imam is reciting the Quran, including Surah Al Fatiha, the followers should not recite behind him. Again, this is uh, a point of difference of opinion, and I will not go into it. According to Ibn Abbas, the Prophet ﷺ recited the Quran in Fard prayer, and the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajmain who were behind him also recited, and they raised their voices. So it became difficult for the Prophet ﷺ. So this ayah was revealed. Another opinion is that it pertains to the Friday khutbah, that when the Imam is delivering the khutbah, it is actually part of the salah, because khutbah also contains the recitation of the Quran, that the people who are in attendance should not be talking to each other, they should listen attentively to it. And this is the opinion of Sayyid ibn Jubair, Mujahid, Atta, and it is also reported from Imam Shafi. Now, listening to the Quran is such a noble deed that the Prophet ﷺ actually told Abdullah bin Masud, recite to me. And he said, shall I recite to you, O Prophet ﷺ, while the Quran is being revealed to you? And the Prophet ﷺ said that, Inni uhibbu an asma'u min ghairi, that I love to listen to it from somebody else. And when Abdullah bin Masud was reciting the Quran, tears were flowing from the eyes of the Prophet ﷺ. And it is mentioned that the Abdullah bin Masud started to recite Surah Nisa, and we reached that ayah, وَكَيْفَ إِذَا جَئْنَا بِكُمْ جَمِيعًا إِلَى آخِرِ الآية, that we will bring this ummah of Prophet ﷺ, and then the Prophet ﷺ will be the witness over them, that the Prophet ﷺ started crying. Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu has mentioned that whoever listens attentively to an ayah from the kitab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will become a light for him. It's light on the day of judgment. And it can also be said when everybody is walking on the bridge, the sirat, it will be darkness, but the reciters of the Quran will have a nur in front of them. Surah Al-Hadid mentioned this. And Abu Dawud has mentioned that Abu Darda radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to teach the Quran, and there will be people with him who will be reciting the Quran collectively. So this report has also been used by people who are of the opinion that collective recitation of the Quran is also permissible, and Allah knows best. Now, there is one complaint that is mentioned in the Quran, that the Prophet ﷺ will only make one complaint in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it will be وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّ إِنَّ قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. Surah Furqan, verse number 30. That the Prophet ﷺ will say, "Oh my Rabb, my ummah left this Quran mahjura." And what's the meaning of the word mahjura? It's derived from the word hijr. And the scholars mentioned by hijrul Quran yakunu bihijr talawati, that leaving aside the recitation of the Quran when people don't recite the Quran. Another is tadabbur of the Quran, that people do recite the Quran, but they do not reflect upon it. They do not try to understand it. They don't learn from others, or they don't learn it, they don't teach it, or they stop acting according to it. So what it implies is that, number one, we should make it a habit to recite the Quran every day, especially during Ramadan. We should learn the Quran. We should teach others the Quran, especially our children. And we should act according to it. What is halal in Quran is halal. Nobody can make it haram. What is declared as haram in Quran, nobody can declare it as halal. What Quran says to stay away from, we stay away from it. What Quran wants us to do, we should do that. So inshallah, we'll end this talk with a piece of advice from the book Provision for the Hereafter, compiled by Hafiz Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. And he mentioned a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, that thalathu muhlikat, there are three things that are destroyers. Wa thalathun munjiyat, three things that are saviors. Wa thalathun kafarat, three things which will expiate for the sin. Wa thalathun darajat, three things which will elevate the status of a believer in Jannah, inshallah. Then he mentions for ammal muhlikat, as far as the three destroyers are concerned, they are fashu mutal, which means extreme miserliness, not spending in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wahawa muttabe, and following one's desires, wa ijabul mar'i bi nafsi, self-infatuation, being pleased with oneself, considering the one actions are highly praiseworthy, wa ammal munjiyat, as far as the three saviors are concerned, they are fal adlu fil ghadabi warada, which means to do justice whether one is angry or happy, wal qasdu fil faqri wal ghina, and to be modest whether one is in a state of poverty or one is enjoying plenty and riches, wa khashiyatullah fi sirri wal alaniya, and to be afraid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala secretly as well as openly. Wa ammal kafarat, and the three things that will expiate the sins are fa intizaru salati ba'da salah, after finishing one prayer, waiting for the next prayer, which is like if you have prayed Maghrib in the masjid or at home, you keep sitting on the musalla waiting for the Isha prayer to come. So the time period between the two will be like you have spent this time in remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the salah. Wa isbahul wudu fi sabrat, and performing the wudu, the ablution, perfectly even in cold nights. Now remember, at that time in Medina and Makkah, there were no water heaters. The water will be extremely cold, often freezing. And a person will wake up for his tahajjud or for fajr, and he will perform ablution perfectly, even with cold water. وَنَقْلُ الْأَقْدَامِ إِلَى الْجَمَاعَةِ, and walking for the congregational prayers. وَأَمَّا الدَّرَجَاتِ, and as far as three things which elevate the status in Jannah are فَإِطْعَامُ الطَّعَامِ, feeding of food, mostly feeding to the poor people, but as well as feeding others as well. وَإِفْشَاءُ salam, spreading the greeting of salam or peace. وَالصَّلَاةُ بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّاسُ نِيَامٌ, and praying at night while other people are engaged in sleep. They're busy sleeping. At that time, the person wakes up and performs his tahajjud prayer. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولذكر الله أكبر. صلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.